everyone. Hope everyone had a great Labor Day weekend. We are here for our regular afternoon session. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I believe that was Councilmember Buffkin who is next.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Today, Councilmember Cox is absent and excused, and Councilmember Fort is running late, but will be here, but will be excused until she arrives. So first order of business is the consent agenda. Do we have a motion on that? No items were pulled, by the way.
Move for approval.
Do we have a seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Stewart? All in favor? Aye. Okay, that was unanimous, Clerk. Next, we have the report and recommendation of the Planning Commission.
Good afternoon. Travis Crane, Planning and Development with the Planning Commission report. So we'll start out by looking at the items that are currently calendared for public hearing. You've got 4 items on September 20th, another one on October 4th. So here's just a snapshot of what staff is recommending from a public hearing workload standpoint. We'll go through each of these one by one. So first, we've got 3 text changes up on the docket. The first is TC 2120. And this is an amendment to the UDO which introduces the minor permit approval process. So this is something that falls outside of our tiering system for more common types of projects and approvals. Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0, and staff is recommending a public hearing date here of September 20th. Next is TC 1821, which would amend the UDO to modify standards for accessory structures. So much like the last one, this is paired with standards specifically for detached sheds, garages, ADUs, things of that nature. The intent here is to try to align those standards a little bit more closely. Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0, and recommended public hearing date here is September 20th. And final text change is TC 522. This is about nonconformities and signage associated with roadway projects. So this is something that staff has encountered in the past. There's never been a code solution for it. If there's a need for wayfinding signage for businesses along a construction route, or if there's a need to replace a sign that needs to be taken down for a construction project, a roadway construction project, this creates the framework for that. So Planning Commission recommends approval of this, 7-0. Staff recommends a public hearing date of September 20. So
before we go on to that, could someone make a motion to approve the text change hearing dates for September 20th? That just makes it easier than trying to do everything all at once at the end.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, that was unanimous, Clerk. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So the first rezoning request here is Z1522. This is located at 501 Washington Street, about 1.5 acres of land. It's split zone today. There's a bit of NX3 on the property, and the remaining balance is residential 10. So the request here is to rezone to neighborhood mixed use, 3 stories, conditional use for the entirety of the parcel. The building here closely aligns with that zoning line, but it doesn't correspond with it, if that makes sense. So there's a little bit of overlap between zoning line and building footprint, which is causing the issue here. So Planning Commission has delivered a recommendation of denial to you, 5-3, and the impetus behind that recommendation staff believes was solely related to conditions that have been offered. Conditions were not, in staff's mind, enforceable. They were more behavioral in nature. So staff will work with the applicant to find an alternative path. I'm confident that we can come to an agreed outcome once it's delivered for public hearing that doesn't utilize the conditions for that purpose. So in between now and the recommended public hearing date of October 4, staff will see if this case can be enhanced somewhat for you. So again, recommended date of October 4th. Next is rezoning Z1622 at Boylan and Hillsborough Street. This is less than an acre of property. It's currently zoned OX7 Urban Limited and OX3 Detached. There is a small portion of NCOD on the northern end of this parcel. Request is to rezone to OX20 Urban Limited Conditional Use. Planning Commission recommends approval of this 7-0, and staff recommends a public hearing date of October 4. Z1722 is a collection of parcels on Hillsborough Street and West Street. It is less than an acre in size, currently zoned DX20 shopfront. Request is DX40 shopfront conditional use. Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0, and staff recommends a public hearing of October 4. Z2022 is a collection of properties at Pleasant Valley Road and Glenwood Avenue. This is the Pleasant Valley Shopping Center. It's 18.5 acres in size, zone CX3 conditional use and CX3 parking limited. Request is CX5 parking limited conditional use. Planning Commission recommends approval of this request 7-0, and staff recommends a public hearing date of October 4. Next is a text change to zoning conditions, TCZ 2622. It's located at 3300 Old Birch Drive. This is a property that's almost 10.5 acres in size. It's zoned R10 conditional use. The zoning would stay the same. Conditions would be modified with this request. Planning Commission recommends approval 8-0, and staff recommends a public hearing date of October 18. Next is Z3022 at 200 Lane Street and 300 Dawson Street. Less than an acre of property, zone DX12 Urban General. Request is to rezone it to DX40 Urban General Conditional Use. Planning Commission recommends approval of this 8-0, and staff recommends a public hearing date of October 18. Z3122 is a very small piece of property, just about 1/10 of an acre in size. Currently zoned DX5 Urban Limited. Request is to rezone to DX20 Urban Limited Conditional Use. Planning Commission recommends approval of this 6-0, and staff recommends a public hearing date of October 4. Z3522 is a collection of properties at Varsity Drive, College View, and Crest Road. It's about 4.2 acres in size, currently zoned R10 with a special residential parking overlay district. Request is to rezone it to RX7 Urban Limited Conditional Use. Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0, and staff recommends public hearing date of October 4. And then finally, 1801 Lynn Road. This is a request to rezone about an acre of property from R4 to R6. This is a general use case. Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. And recommended public hearing date of October 4. So I will pull up the list of recommended public hearing dates. You've got actually 2 pages here. You've taken care of these 3, so you don't need to worry about those. We have a slate of recommendations for October 4th, and the next page is October 18th. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do we have any questions? Would someone like to make a motion?
I move for approval of recommended zoning case dates that have been presented to us.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Okay, next we have special items. The first item is appropriation from contingency, the gun guyback event. Who's here to speak on this?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Lou Bonapane, Interim Budget Director. So at the last council meeting, where there was a request made to appropriate $30,000 from the council contingency account in order to reimburse for expenses that the police department budget undertook in order to host the gun buyback event. Happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay, I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councilmember Branch. All in favor? Aye. Okay, that was unanimous. Thank you. The next item is rezoning Z 8121 Rock Quarry Road. This is to set a public hearing date. Bynum?
Yes, ma'am. Bynum Walter Planning, Raleigh Planning and Development. It's good to see you all this afternoon. So this is a case that you saw in report of Planning Commission at your last meeting, and staff and the applicant asked that you hold it so we make some minor technical revisions to the conditions. Those have been made, and we are recommending a September 20 public hearing for this item, as well as the comprehensive plan amendment that also appears next on the agenda, that is for a concurrent area.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the public hearing?
I move to approve public hearing for both items 2 and 3 under special items.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, that was unanimous, clerk. Thank you. Next, we have report and recommendation of the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Today we have 2 items under the manager's report. The first item I am happy to bring forward, and that is the New Bern Crossing land acquisition. As we continue to struggle with housing affordability in the city continues to try to get creative and partner with agencies throughout our region to be able to bring forward some affordable options. So Erica Brandt with Housing and Neighborhoods is here to present the first item.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So this is about land acquisition for the New Bern Crossings project. So New Bern Crossings is a proposed affordable development on New Bern Avenue, just east of 440. It will create 192 affordable rental units, including 40 units that are set aside as supportive housing. It's located on about 20 acres. And the development team is being led by Greystone Affordable Development in partnership with Harmony Housing, Greystone's nonprofit property ownership arm, and Haven Ventures out of Durham. So in May of 2021, City Council approved $4.25 million in funds for gap financing for the project. But since that time, rising development costs have created a funding gap. Greystone has taken several steps to fill the gap, including working with the Raleigh Housing Authority to increase their bond funding by $8 million in the project, and also requesting modest rent increases on some units to increase the amount of debt service that the project can support. In order to move the project forward, Greystone has requested that the city help to fill the additional gap, and staff proposes to do this by purchasing the project site and then leasing the land back to the developer. The strategy of city ownership of the land would ensure long-term affordability of the site beyond the typical 30-year period of affordability for the tax credit program. Greystone has already requested and been granted authorization from the seller for the city to assume their purchase contract in order to do this. So we are requesting council authorization to assume the purchase contract and to purchase the land for New Bern Crossings. It will be for $1.9 million plus closing costs, and we have community development block grant funds that are available for the purchase, as well as local funds if needed to cover additional closing costs. After purchase, the intent is to lease the land back to the developer, and Housing and Neighborhoods will work with the city attorney to go through the necessary steps to get council approval to go ahead and execute the ground lease at that time with the developer. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions?
Not a question, just a quick statement, if I may.
Yes.
First of all, I want to just thank Greystone and thank staff for their work of just this site has been challenging. There's been a lot of work with NCDOT, a lot of work in just making sure that we can remain affordable and increase affordability in properties. I love the fact that this actually includes 3 bedrooms. That has been a challenge. We were getting a lot of 1 and 2 bedrooms, and here's where we're looking at some 3 bedrooms at 30% AMI. I wish we had more. But it's still, again, it's a step in the right direction at the right time. I would approve the recommendation.
Mayor Pro Tem Stewart, I saw you doing this and this. I think that means you are.
Awesome.
Okay, so are you seconding the, okay? This is very creative thinking on the part of staff, and we really do appreciate it. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Unanimous, clerk. Thank you.
Okay, and the second item, I'm excited about it too, but not quite as much. So Ken Bowers from Planning and Development is here to bring forward an opportunity for us to receive some enabling authority for reimbursement agreements for some capital projects. So Ken with Planning and Development.
Sure. Thanks. You may recall back in July, I was here to present to you the internal reorganization, creating our urban projects group, and one of its core missions is to accelerate the transition from a plan to physical reality through internal coordination and external partnerships. And we looked at the toolbox that the city has available to us to partner with the private sector to implement projects and plans. And in the middle of this was the reimbursement agreements. Reimbursement agreements are basically where a developer finances and performs certain work on behalf of the city, and the city reimburses for that work following completion. And that may be a partial or full reimbursement depending on the circumstances, but it allows where there's an interest from both the development entity and the city in seeing something happen to accelerate the process of delivering that project, and often to share the cost of delivering the process. And we have used reimbursement agreements in the past, but in researching our ability to implement this with the attorney's offices, we discovered that there is some statutory authority for entering into certain types of reimbursement agreements, which the city has not heretofore used. And so one of those requires a new local ordinance. So Section 160A 499 of the general statutes enables reimbursement agreements with private developers and property owners for the design and construction of municipal infrastructure. Infrastructure is to be included in the city's capital plan. It serves the developer or property owners. And although the language is broad, the statute does specifically enumerate transportation and utility infrastructure. We believe that would include also pedestrian facilities, greenways, things of that nature. In order to use this, the statute says that the city shall enact ordinances setting forth procedures and terms under which such agreements may be approved. So those terms are up to the city, but the attorney's office and city staff have researched some similar ordinances from other communities in North Carolina. The reimbursements may be paid from any lawful source, and the private contractor has to follow public bidding procedures if the work is something that would have required public bidding if the contract was with the city. The second statutory reference is 168-309. This is a little bit more narrowly tailored, but it also has some different provisions than 499. This is for intersection and roadway improvements. It enables cities to contract with a developer or property owner or an entity that's under contract to a developer or property owner for public intersection or roadway improvements that are adjacent or ancillary to a private land development project. In this case, if the cost is small, under less than or equal to $250,000, or if contracting for the improvement separately is impracticable, the public bidding requirement can be waived, and that can often streamline partnering with a private entity who tend to contract for construction services differently than the public sector does. This says the city may enact ordinances and policies setting forth the procedures, requirements, and terms for such agreements. We feel that even though that's an option, it is a best practice, and therefore we would like to incorporate the reference to this statute in the same ordinance or ordinances. So in summary, reimbursement agreements are an important tool for pursuing public-private partnerships. There's authority to enter into certain types of reimbursement agreements sitting in the statutes today. A local ordinance is required to access one of those statutes, and it's the best practice for accessing the other. And so staff is requesting authorization to draft ordinances enabling this and bring them back to you at a subsequent meeting for your approval. My last point, of course, is that enabling these tools does not obligate that we use them. It does give the city options, though, to have these tools in our toolbox should the need arise. With that, I can take any questions.
Do we have any questions for Ken? Councilmember Buffkin?
Thank you, Mayor. So, Mr. Bowers, I think I understand most of these will come to the council through some kind of development approval or review. At what point in the process do we try to identify projects that could benefit the city through using these tools? And I say that sometimes they get to us and we think, boy, it'd been great if we'd have done this a different way. And, after months of review process, applicants aren't inclined to back up and start over. So
the traditional way is that someone comes to us. They want to do a project that's over and above what would be required for their development. Maybe that's to create a greenway connection where none exists, and it's on our property, so we have to partner with them. We're even in discussions about connection across 440 as part of the Midtown plan. So there are things like that that the private sector may come to us to do. The other way is if the city initiates it. And so how would we know to initiate it? One of the groups that my staff, once they're fully assembled, is supposed to do is to really keep tabs on the early stage contact points with developers. Typically, when a project is percolating, the first touch points are something either called a due diligence session or a sketch plan. This is when staff finds out the development plan is coming. Rezoning is another trigger that often heralds a forthcoming development plan. But before, the design for that project is particularly set and there have been substantial expenditures on a certain path. We hope that if we see a project that's on the horizon that provides an opportunity for partnership, that maybe the developer has not occurred to them or they're unaware of the public project that's identified in the area plan or in the capital plan that would provide that opportunity, that we would go to them proactively and say, hey, would you be interested in partnering on accelerating the implementation of this project? So the goal there is to get early intelligence based on the contacts that we get all the time in planning and development for people who are interested in developing property and bring to their attention such opportunities as may exist.
Any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion? Councilmember Buffkin?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to authorize the drafting of the ordinances.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Stewart. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. Okay. Next, we have the report and recommendation of the Economic Development and Innovation Committee.
No report. We will continue our discussion of our ARPA funding opportunities. At our last meeting, we went over the business alliance assistance and provided some feedback to staff, but the committee opted to hold that issue to get some of the framework before us before we made a recommendation. And I believe we'll also be taking up the Pathway Center investments funding at our next meeting too, which will be Tuesday the 27th at 1:30 in council chambers.
Growth and Natural Resources.
No report. We have a scheduled meeting for September 27th as well at 4 p.m., but we have no items at this time, but I would like to hold that meeting until our next meeting, next council meeting, to see if we have any items.
We'll see if we can get you some work. Safe, Vibrant, and Healthy Community Committee. I am going to set that meeting at our next meeting. Need to talk to committee members first. And then Transportation and Transit.
So we had one item that we're reporting out with no recommendation. We had the New Bern Avenue, New Bern Avenue. I'm still stuck on that affordable housing project. We had the North Hills assemblage that was before us. We did have a in-depth conversation. This is the one item that we had around transit. Staff also shared with us that there's a connection that they're working on, which is outside of this project, to connect Barrett Drive with Barrett Road with Navajo Drive. So that was shared with us, as well as a TIA. I actually asked this question, but a TIA will be due at site plan for any buildings that, if this project is approved, but it was recommended out with no action. And I believe it comes before us tonight in this during our evening session. And
what were the additional conditions?
so they are adding, I believe, micro units to the project, as well as there's another item. The step back. They were adding step backs as well to the project for the property off of Rowan. So those were the two conditions I believe they are adding.
Okay. Do you have another meeting scheduled?
We're supposed to meet again on September 22nd for our two items, but I'm going to get with staff and double check because that's EDI and transit both on the same day. We may push hours back since there's a fifth.
For the 27th.
27th. Okay, so we'll be meeting on the 22nd. I misheard you, sorry. The 22nd at our scheduled time with our two remaining items that we have left.
Okay. Thank you. Next, we have report from the mayor and city council. We'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Stewart.
No report.
Councilmember Fort?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I know we've got the disparity study coming, but when I looked at some of the contracts that we're going through on the consent agenda, we still have the issue where they're not meeting the numbers of minority participation, and it's sort of been checked off. Again, we've got the state hub office. I think there are plenty of contractors that may be able to participate in some of these contracts, but again, I know the disparity study is coming, but I just wanted to kind of highlight that again, because it is a concern that we've got so many contracts being awarded, but we don't have our required amount of minority participation in those.
Councilmember Branch?
I have 3 real quick items, but on that one item there, can we also just look and make sure if there's any federal dollars that we are following our federal guidelines? Because I know they require certain participation for federal projects. The next thing I have is, can staff report back on how we can possibly use federal funding for ADA paratransit? I think there's some monies that have came available on the last administration, from my understanding as well. And just a report what we can do. I know we're looking for fare free, so I'm trying to find all available resources to help cover costs. The last 2 things are part of a little more uplifting. This Saturday, we are having the Fisher Street Park dedication at 10 a.m. This is over near St. Augustine's University, East College Park. This dedication is a new park. We moved the park when the homes were built in that area, so I look forward to those that can come out. It will start at 10 a.m. sharp because I'm speaking and I have to be somewhere else at the exact same time. So please come out on Saturday. And also, I want to thank everyone who came out this past weekend to the 13th Annual African American Cultural Festival. The weather held out. It was a great success. I just want to thank all those in the community that have worked. Thank the African American Cultural Festival Committee for their due diligence in their work. And we look forward to the 14th African American Cultural Festival on next year. And that is all I have.
Okay. Councilmember Melton?
No report.
Councilmember Buffkin?
No report today.
Councilmember Knight?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No report today.
Okay, I have one item. I just want to acknowledge Councilmember Melton and Mayor Pro Tem Stewart's leadership on the very kind of emotional topic of eviction. And we had a great meeting this morning in ribbon cutting, celebrating the new center. This is the City of Raleigh Housing Justice Project in conjunction with Campbell Law School and the Blanchard Community Law Clinic. And it was a little emotional for me because it is located in the site where Clearscapes used to be. And the last time I was in that building was to meet with Steve Schuster, who has since passed away. But I really think that the location will be inspirational, just like Steve was. Always wanted to do more for our community. And I want to thank Dean Leonard. He said something today that when he first came here a decade ago, one of his goals was to really build Campbell Law School into the community and support the community. And that's what they've done. They have a number of law clinics, family law clinic. They have this new law clinic. And I happened to meet one young woman, student, who successfully fought yesterday and prevented an eviction from happening. And there was another meeting going on with somebody on the phone while we were there. This is going to be a great asset. In addition, Legal Aid now has a new leader who used to be at Campbell Law, and I can see them working much closer together as well. So this is a really positive step forward, and I just want to thank Campbell for being such a great partner. I also want to thank our city attorney's office, Robin, you and Brandon, for bringing forward a creative solution to an issue that we were struggling with. And I see that already word is starting to spread, but I also hope that we will do our part to inform the community about what a great partnership this is and how we can help others. So, thank you. City Clerk?
Okay, excuse me, Appearance Commission, you have one vacancy, there are no nominations. Arts Commission, one vacancy, no nominations. Hispanic and Immigrant Affairs Board, one regular vacancy. Community category, no nominations. Same for an alternate vacancy, community category, no nominations. And one alternate professional category, no nominations. Historic Cemetery Advisory Board, one regular vacancy, no nominees. Parks, Recreation, and Greenway Advisory Board, you have two regular vacancies. Jeff Havner received 3 votes. You received write-in candidates. Council members Melton and Fort both nominated Bob Edgerton, and Councilmember Branch nominated April Love. So those 3 will be on the next ballot for consideration. Police Advisory Board, you have one regular vacancy. The Victim Advocate slot, no nominees. Police Advisory Board, one alternate vacancy. Diane Bellamy received 4 votes. Patsy Morgan received 3, and there were no additional nominees, so those 2 and any additional nominees will be on the next agenda. The Raleigh Historic Development Commission, one regular vacancy. And John Anderson received 5 votes, so he would be appointed, so you now have a full board there. The next is the Community Engagement Board. One of the staff recommendations is not eligible, and they have recommended a person to fill the slot, so it would be appropriate to confirm the recommendation of Clinton Hill to replace the person who was ineligible. So it would be appropriate for you to consider confirmation.
I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that is approved
The next is
unanimously.
the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Board. You have one regular vacancy, as a resignation has been received from Dwight Otwell. Therefore, one vacancy for consideration. Additionally, on the Parks, Recreation, and Greenway Advisory Board, you have 3 terms that are expiring: Carol Ashcraft, Sean King, and Christina Jones. Ms. Jones does not wish to be considered for reappointment. The other 2 are eligible and would like to be considered for reappointment, and you have their attendance record in the agenda.
Move to reappoint.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed?
Mayor, if I may, I just want to
Yes.
point out we now have 3 vacancies, and we'll have 3 nominees on our ballot next time, so that may solve that issue. I just wanted to flag that before anybody else thinks I need to make a nomination. We've got 3 pending and 3 openings, so
Great.
just want to flag that.
The next is the Stormwater Management Advisory Commission. You have one regular vacancy. The term of David Markwood is expiring. He is eligible for reappointment and would like to be considered for reappointment.
Move to reappoint.
Seconded by Councilmember Branch. All in favor? Aye.
And the last for today is the Substance Use Advisory Commission. The term of Nicholas Savac is expiring soon. He is eligible as far as length of service and would like to be considered for reappointment, and you received his attendance record.
Move to reappoint.
Second.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Stewart. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
And that's it for me today.
Okay, thank you, Clerk. Next, we have the report and recommendation of the city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one item. During the public comment period at the last meeting, we had one speaker who used their time, or at least part of their time, to announce that they are running for the city council. They stated their platform and solicited voter support. And I have gotten many questions since then about whether the council is required to allow individuals to use the public comment period to campaign for office and announce candidacies, and the answer to that is no, you do not. Public comment is what is known under the First Amendment as a limited public forum, and in a limited public forum, the council can legally reserve those periods for specific topics. They don't have to open the floor for absolutely everything. And public comment, at least in the state of North Carolina, is to allow speakers to address the city council on items that the council has jurisdiction or some type of control over. It is not an opportunity to basically open up a candidate forum for anybody to come and ask for votes for office. So there are other opportunities for this, for people to campaign, and public comment is not the appropriate one if council desires to limit it. Now, we've researched these issues, and the courts have held that a local government can restrict campaign-related speech during council meetings, and if this was not the case, basically every public comment or city council meeting during the campaign season would turn into basically a commercial for individual candidates. So it's a reasonable restriction if you would like to impose it, because it could be disruptive and could actually become contentious. And as you know, under the general statutes, you can have reasonable rules of decorum, which include rules that maintain order and make sure that the topic is one that is appropriate for that forum. So I'm going to hand, can you pass these down? Our office, you don't currently have a rule of decorum that addresses this, but as I have stated, you can, and if it is a rule of decorum, then people will be on notice and it will cause less disruption during the meeting if this is how you want to go. Just quickly, this rule, should you choose to adopt it, would say a speaker shall not use the public comment period to identify themselves as a candidate for public office or to urge voters to support their candidacy or to cast votes in their favor. So it's very limited, doesn't prohibit anyone from talking about issues that may be up in the next election. It's just limiting that to asking voters to support or announce candidacy. So I can answer any questions. If you're inclined to adopt it, I would suggest that it be the new 9 in your rules of decorum and move the current 9 to 10, which is basically talks about enforcement. So I'm glad to answer any questions. Again, this is to address a number of questions I've gotten since the last meeting.
Do we have any questions for the city attorney? Okay. Do we have a motion or interest in approving this?
I think we should leave this one alone. I think as one of the folks not running for office, I think we should let it go. I think it speaks for itself when folks come up here and say whatever they want to say. It's not the forum for it, and people know that. And if they want to go post it on TikTok, they can go post it on TikTok. It is really kind of silly, but I don't think us adding a rule here is going to stop them from doing it, and I think it makes us look not the way we want to look. I think we should ignore this and move on.
Councilmember Melton?
I agree. I don't think it's the proper forum to come and campaign, but if that's how folks want to use their 2 or 3 minutes, I think it's a slippery slope sometimes when you start regulating what folks can and can't say. And I quite frankly think we're breathing more life into it by bringing this up. And anytime someone comes up here and tries to do it and gets gavelled down, they're going to get more attention to their message than they would have if they had just said it. So I'm going to vote no, but whatever y'all want to do.
Well, we'll see if there's even a vote.
Madam Mayor? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I move to adopt for all the reasons that the city attorney stated. Thank you.
You know, I'm going to ask that we hold this for 2 weeks till our September meeting, so there can be some more conversation. would you pull your motion?
Sure.
Let's just wait and discuss this a little further. Okay, thank you. And now we have a motion to enter closed session.
Clerk minutes, I
Oh, the minutes,
I move
go.
for approval.
Already, we're ahead of you. Move for approval. Do we have a second?
Oh.
Do we have a second on that? Second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Councilmember Melton?
There was a typo that I was trying to raise in the clerk minutes, which is why I didn't vote. I emailed it to the clerk. It's on page 58. It says I seconded my own motion. It's clearly a typo in the minutes.
You didn't do that?
I hope not.
We will make the correction. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey,
And I
thank
vote
you.
yes with the correction.
Thank you. All right, now we have a motion to enter closed session. GS 143-318-11A2 to prevent the premature disclosure of an honorary degree, scholarship prize, or similar awards. So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you. We have just returned from closed session where the council provided direction to staff on the items listed in the closed session motion. Council will reconvene at 7 p.m. this evening. Thank you.